Good morning, everyone. Jody Wilson-Raybould's testimony from last week at the Justice Committee is still having an impact. The fallout is still falling out. And there are so many stories that it's easy for the newspapers to focus on one instead of another and be justified in that. You can only cover so much. But one that they're maybe not covering as much as other stories is the fact that Katie Telford told Jody Wilson-Raybould, don't worry about it, we'll get a bunch of op-eds written to make what you're doing look proper. No problems. Don't worry about it. Regardless of what you're doing, if what you're doing is proper indeed, we'll just have a bunch of people activated to write these op-eds. And so this is Ken Whyte. He's the former editor of National Post. And he says, quote, as a former newspaper editor, the creepiest thing about Jody Wilson-Raybould's testimony was when they told her, go ahead, cross the line, and we'll arrange a shitload of op-eds to justify your move. And there's a second tweet, and he says, quote, that's not a partisan thing either. Editors need to be extremely cautious about taking op-eds from hacks and consultants and others close to governments because you become vulnerable to shit like this. Credible op-ed pages should have no part of party activists and consultants. And I would agree, except Miss Telford is married to somebody who used to work at and run, I believe its name is Crestview, but an identity management and advertising agency, something that has connections with people like Ken Whyte, newspaper editors, and will activate those people and article writers, op-ed writers to submit these positive articles to people like Ken Whyte, editors, not former editors, and they read them and they publish them. And I'm sure they get heavy pressure on the editor to publish those submitted articles, right? I'm sure it's not just one layer. I'm sure there's multiple layers of pressure, just like they put on Miss Wilson-Raybould. So if you think that the things that you're seeing written in everything from Macleans to the Globe and Mail and your local newspaper, you could be just reading propaganda paid for by the government and directly from the PMO. We'll just call some people. No problem. Here's Mark Garneau, and he says, to all my friends, in the next 24 hours, the planet known as Earth in the sun solar system of the Milky Way galaxy will make precisely one revolution. That gives me great comfort. Yes, well, I wish that you would take ownership for the scandal that's plaguing your government and stand up to your prime minister, who's clearly breaking the rules for his own ends and means. Anyway, Macleans is reporting, Justin Trudeau, my, how you've changed. Andrew McDougall says, Justin Trudeau looks like the unsmart, unserious man that so many of his political opponents have always insisted he is. Yes, it's true. Imagine you're Justin Trudeau. Ugh. The SNC Lavalin scandal has been battering your government for weeks. Your story keeps shifting. The usually docile media aren't letting it rest. Even 1,000 coordinated tweets about the positive impact of the Canada Child Benefit can't change the channel. On the contrary, L'Affaire SNC, now christened LavScam, is picking up steam. I want to pause here. I'm sad that it's not Lavalin Gate. Come on. Okay, back to the article. You've been forced to accept the resignation of your good friend and top advisor, Jerry Butts, who showed himself the door despite doing absolutely nothing wrong on SNC. Your boy Butsy jumped on the SNC grenade to spare others the damage. Only Butts missed the grenade completely. Even worse, Jody Wilson-Raybould, i.e. the grenade launcher, is now before the Justice Committee. She's relatively free to speak and is letting loose. And now the shrapnel is everywhere and everyone is bleeding. You're bleeding, your chief of staff is bleeding, your Quebec advisor is bleeding, your policy guy is bleeding, your big spending, do-nothing finance minister is bleeding, your finance minister's chief of staff is bleeding, and the non-partisan clerk of the Privy Council, i.e. your own personal pick for the post, well, Michael Wernick is soiled, comprehensively soiled, and bleeding. It's riveting testimony. The media are typing as if their lives depended on it. The cable guys are running the full hearing, and ordinary people are watching because it's not every day you see a member of a government strafe its leadership. Strafe you. Only strafe isn't the word. It's more of a shiv. There's no emotion or hysteria. There's ice in Jody Wilson-Raybould's veins and steely determination as she coolly, calmly, and credibly outlines the myriad ways your political and bureaucratic apparatus attempted to impress upon her independent mind the need to have another think on SNC, despite her repeated attempts to everyone, including you, that her thinking on the matter was all done. Okay, so I just thought this whole article was great. That intro was fantastic. You should read the whole article for yourself. Its link is in the description. But I wanted to focus on one other thing. The other day, Justin Trudeau shuffled his cabinet. And in the cabinet shuffle, he put Maryam Monsef into an additional responsibility. She is the youngest, or one of the youngest, MPs ever to be made a cabinet minister. And, well, let's learn about her. Because I thought, what qualifications does she have in international development? And then I learned some things, and I was kind of like, wow, that's interesting. International development added to Monsef's cabinet portfolio. Peterborough Kawartha MP Maryam Monsef picked up a new responsibility for international development in Friday morning's cabinet shuffle by embattled Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Maryam Monsef has done an excellent job as Minister for Women and Gender Equality, Trudeau said. Now she'll also take on the role of Minister for International Development, where she'll keep building on our work to empower women and girls around the world. Monsef, who also remains as Women and Gender Equality Minister, picks up the international development portfolio for Marie-Claude Bibeau, who was promoted to Agricultural Minister in the shuffle. Both were sworn into the new roles Friday morning at Rideau Hall in Ottawa. Monsef said she is looking forward to working especially on moving forward with the feminist international development policy that Bibeau introduced. Quote, I'm going to continue to ensure that women are the heart of the work that we do, because when women do well, whether it's abroad or here in Canada, their families do better and everyone benefits, Monsef told reporters. So, here is Maryam Monsef. She was born in Iran to parents who fled during the Soviet-Afghan War. In 2003, Monsef enrolled at Trent University, from which she graduated in 2010 with a Bachelor's of Science in Biology and Psychology. After graduation, she worked as an immigration portal researcher for WelcomePeterborough.ca, then as an outreach coordinator for New Canadian Centre, then as an outreach coordinator for the Community Foundation of Greater Peterborough, and then as a communication consultant for the Peterborough Economic Development Commission, and then as a coordinator of diversity and international student support community engagement and stewardship officer at Fleming College. So that was from 2010 to 2014. So that seems like a lot of jobs between 2010 and 2014. If you're counting, that's a lot of jobs. Five in total. So she stayed a year or less than a year in each. Okay, political career. In 2014, Monsef had been offered a job in Afghanistan, but was unable to enter the country because of security concerns. She then went to Iran to work on relief efforts for Afghan refugees, which encouraged her to focus on political endeavors. She returned to Canada and ran for mayor of Peterborough in 2014, finishing a close second. Later that same year, she was chosen to represent the Liberal Party in the upcoming federal election. She was elected on October 19th, 2015, with 43.8% of the vote. Monsef was appointed as Minister of Democratic Institutions in Justin Trudeau's cabinet on November 4th, 2015. She has variously been referred to as the second or fourth youngest minister ever appointed into cabinet. Sorry, I misspoke earlier. I thought she was the youngest. Second or fourth youngest, apparently. Okay, so is that enough experience to pick up the international development cabinet position? Like, that seems like not enough experience. Does all it take is going to Iran to help some refugees, and that gives you international development chops? I could be wrong. Is that enough to give you chops like that to work in the government, crafting policy, going to Iran for a while to work with Afghan refugees? Is that raising anybody else's eyebrows? What is going on here? Iran is widely seen as a nation that funds terrorism, right? Trump has been putting sanctions on Iran since he got into office. Obama was trying to capitulate and pay them off to stop funding terrorism, and somehow sending them pallets of cash. Please stop funding terrorism. Here's a lot of money. Weird, right? So strange that we give somebody who, if she has international development chops, those skills were developed in Iran with Afghan refugees. So is that who we want representing us in government? Is that who we want representing our interests in government? It seems like a bad idea to me, but maybe that's just me. Here's Candice Malcolm, why the Maryam Monsef case matters. And this is a whole article that kind of, because I heard that Maryam Monsef got an extra cabinet position in the latest shuffle, and so that concerned me. And then I came across this piece and I looked into it further. I'm not going to read Miss Malcolm's piece. I'll link to it. You can read it for yourself. It was written in 2016. So Miss Malcolm was way ahead of the curve. Well done, Candice. And yeah, this is incredibly concerning. Incredibly concerning. And this whole government is incredibly concerning. From one side, improperly using and manipulating and paying off the press, to the other side of putting, it seems, foreign nationals into positions of power and giving them more and more power. Oh, she's done a great job as the cabinet minister of this, so, why don't we just give her international development too? Let's put her in charge of more stuff, eh? How about national defense too? So, thank you for watching, everybody. Check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday.